Welcome.
Thank you. Since Spiron is home with a man cold, I had brought my fake beard. I wanted to impersonate him. I always wanted to be a Greek. He's so relaxed, but now...
Sorry, can I just
Maria spoiled all my...
fix it for you? Sorry. There we go.
Okay, thank you. Okay, where were we? Some rant about beards, but yeah, we had a presentation too. So the theme, as Maria said, is about waste on water. And the short agenda that we have today is that, first of all, I'm going to present the background to the project. This is a continuation from DenCity 2. Then we're going to present the floating recycling station that is on a barge. We're going to present the goal, shortly about the transport geography that this barge operates in, how we evaluate it, some of the key barriers for making use of this, some brief results, and finally conclude. Okay, as I said, this is part of the DenCity projects, where we focus on space efficient transports. A quick outlook. Okay. A quick outlook on the background. We see that the use of urban waterways it's happening in different cities in Europe, in Venice and in Amsterdam and Paris and so on. And the major reason for this, I would say, is the congestion of roads. So that's why it started in Europe, and that's why we saw it as a part of the density problem to solve the congestion problem in cities. A lot of things to hold at the same time. Okay, some of the brief results from DenCity 2. What we did here was a 2-week demonstration where we tested this. Never mind. We tested this intermodal container. Thank you, Peter. We tested this intermodal container that Staffan showed earlier. And basically we showed that we could use that for transport of parcels. It worked according to the time schedule. The customers got the goods on the same time as they would have using trucks. And it worked with coordinating several different actors and so on. We also transported waste. Peter, if you want to. Thank you, Peter. We also transported waste, and that worked pretty well as well. But the major issue was and is the cost perspective. I mean, maritime transports is very cost efficient on long distances and in large volumes, and that is not the case in cities, so therefore cost is a major issue that we need to overcome. However, there was a large interest among participating actors and the public and so on, so that's why we thought, let's try something else in DenCity 3, let's continue with this. Shortly about some of the other learnings. It's very useful to do a demonstration or a real test, because you see that being out on the waterways, you discover things that you don't discover doing just desk research. For example, we noticed that the waterways really consists of different waterways. It's not all the same. The river is very windy, and the small rivers are affected by other things, such as very low bridges, only 30 centimeters here, when we passed under the bridge and so on. And also, I mean, you can look at the water and you think that, oh, there's water, you can use a barge, but that's not the case. It needs a lot of maintenance and so on. So it's not the same as with roads. If there is a road, you can use it. But for waterways, maintenance and so on is needed. And as we shortly will get back to, the keys for unloading and loading is also a major problem to find. Okay, so what we decided to continue with in DenCity 3 was to make use of a barge as a floating recycling station, and then also continue with this work on improving and coming up with ideas on how to make use of the keys for waterway transports. So let's see if this works. Okay, so this is the concept we are testing.
Vad tycker du om detta med att vi nu har en återvinningsbro i Göteborg?
Jag tycker att det är väldigt bekvämt. Det är så lätt liksom att man har lite grejer, man har massor med grejer. Så kan man lägga det på cykeln och så cykla iväg och bli av med massa färgburkar och sånt där som man inte vet vad man ska göra av annars.
Vi bor ganska nära och har inte bil. Så vi samlar liksom allting på vår vind och sen kommer vi aldrig iväg. Så det här är typ så här som så här dröm som vi har gått och väntat på.
Nu kan ju göteborgarna då slänga sitt grovavfall på ett enkelt sätt. Det är ett sätt att utnyttja älven som en transportled i Göteborg. Flytta bort mycket av trafiken ifrån vägnätet. Om man då gör som vi, kör visserligen en gammal boxerbåt men den går på HVO som är biodiesel, helt fossilfritt. Så sparar vi mycket utsläpp också.
Det här är svinbra. Vi bor på Esperantoplatsen, det var bara att knalla hit. Tog så mycket vi kunde bära.
Okay, so then we are evaluating this from 3 perspectives. First of all, it needs to be environmentally sustainable, and it is. And that's mostly about reducing congestion, but of course also greenhouse gases and noise and accidents and so on. Secondly, we need to, in order for the barge to be successful, it needs to be adapted to households in the sense that they want to make use of it. It needs to be where they want it to be and open when they want it to be open and so on. So that's what we are developing and evaluating as well. And then finally, this we are not done with the economic evaluation, but the barge needs to be viable. It's likely going to be slightly more expensive, but given the benefits, the environmental benefits, and the value it adds to households that can make use of it, then it might be more expensive, but still defendable or justified from an economic perspective. Okay, so this is the transport geography. Basically, the barge is stopping at different places in the city center where a very large part of the population in Gothenburg live. So compared to the normal situation is that people take their car out to a recycling center outside the city center, and then a truck goes to the sorting facility. And instead, people can walk a very short distance to the quays, and from there the barge takes it to the sorting facility. So what we're having is a double modal shift, because it's both with respect to the people who make use of walking instead of taking a car, and then there's a modal shift because we use a barge instead of a truck. So we have double environmental benefits. Okay.
Okay. When we decided to make this tryout, we had to start somewhere. And we identified from the beginning that to find the keys should be a problem. We know there's keys around the river all the way, nearly. But in very many places it's not accessible. And where it is accessible, it may be in bad shape. And where there is in a shape that could be used, there are problems with who owns the quay. And maybe it's so that one owns the quay and another one uses it, and there's a lot of things happening around it that hinder us. So we had to do a lot of work to find places where we actually could landed this barge. But we find 5 places, and we made an agreement with the involved parts, with the keys, so they will be happy when it's over. So that's what we worked with. So we find 5 places. You have to do. I pointed, and you do that. Yes. So these are the 5 places we found. 2 on the north side of the river, where we are now, and 3 on the southern side. And on the north side, it's rather nice. Both Eriksbergstorget and Sandnägårdshamnen. It's new areas with a lot of houses, and you can walk all the way down to the water. On the other side, there's a big road going all the way between the houses and the water. And in long places there is Stena, the ferry. So it's not so accessible. But we said we had to try. So, okay. So what is a floating recycling station? We take the same as we do in an ordinary recycling station on land. But as we are pointed our mission to people living in apartment houses mostly, and in the other recycling centers are nearly all used by one house people with gardens and so on. We thought that we can get rid of some garden waste and things like that. So the main thing was, of course, that you can use this without a car. Yeah. So we are doing this now. This is the last week. We have used it for 5 weeks, and this is the last week. So this is the last chance this year for you to see it, and we will walk there afterwards. But we have already decided to make it go 6 weeks in the spring also. Yeah, I think we can skip this. We are short of time. But this is the schedule. We said we are two days at one place. We wanted to try out, will people come in the afternoon, or is it better with the weekends? This is the barge. That we chose this was that it was available. But we thought, well, okay, it should work. So we make some sketches, very simple, there, to try out how can we use this barge as good as possible. It's 25 to 10 meters wide, so we have to live with that. And we find it very useful. This is how it looks, and I hope most of you will walk together and take the ferry over to the other side to see how it looks. This is the results. Don't start to count, because this was until the 9th. But when we add what happened after the 9th until the weekend we have had over 2,000 visitors on this barge, on this short time. And it's about, this is after a little more than 2 weeks, and we have collected a little more than 7 tons of different types of waste. Yeah. You can ask more questions while we are walking there and how it looks.
Okay, then shortly about the evaluation, we have done a phone survey where we, for example, asked people to a number of stated a number of things, and we asked them if they agreed or not. And basically, I'm not going to go through all this in detail, but basically, most people were very, very satisfied with the barge, for example, with regards to opening hours and the physical layout and so on. And we had similar results at Eriksberg, Sandnägårdshamnen and the southern quays, which we had to group because there were rather few visitors at all the southern quays. One thing that there was a difference between the quays was that people found it easier to both find the barge, get to the barge, and the location of the barge. That was much better on the quays on this side of the river. And we also found that people came a shorter distance to the quays on this side of the river compared to the other side of the river. So, as you said, it was about 1/10 of the in the number of visitors on the southern side compared to the northern side. So a natural question is, of course, then why does fewer people come from the southern side? Is it basically because of the longer distances and so on, or do people perceive the road as a barrier? This kind of brings us back to what Mike talked about this morning. This may be like an interdisciplinary problem. I mean, is how do people perceive the city? This may not be a logistic problem for people. It's rather how do people perceive the city? I mean, people are used to walk on this side of the quays. People don't walk that much on the southern side. So maybe habits is a reason for not going there and so on. So we will continue with that evaluation. And we've also seen that on this side of the rivers, you have been in contact with bostadsrättsföreningar. Lost the word. The cooperatives, representing the houses and so on, and they have been interested in the project, and then they have advertised the project for the residents and so on. That has not been the case on the southern side. So advertising and word of mouth and everything may have been contributing to more people using the quays on this side of the river. Okay, shortly to conclude in 42 seconds. The barge is appreciated by households, but we still need to do the final environmental evaluation to see actually how good it is, and we also need to see what does this actually cost and compare that to the regular recycling stations to see if this extra cost is justified or not. We will continue with the work with infrastructure. As Peter said, we will continue and perform a second test in the spring, develop it further, and then we will also evaluate further, for example, people who didn't go to the barge.
Very good timing. Thank you. I think we will save the questions for the walk. If not, no questions online. Okay. So please follow Martin and Peter during the study visit. They will show the way and ask them a lot of questions during the way. You will get coffee when we come back here after the study visit, and then we will see the final presentations of today from Walter and Anna.
Can people leave bags in here?
We have to say...
we can leave things here.
Yes, so take your coat. Yes,
we
Peter.
Walk a bit and go by the ferry.
Yeah.
And it's a free ferry.
Yeah.
Backa till den. Oops, there. Now we are up there, and we are going to visit it. It's situated here right now. So we take the ferry over there and then walk this way.
So it's not a long walk.
No.